here.
Right, because I think they are allowed to comment.
Yes,
So,
yes, I hope so.
yeah, I will watch that. Well, on YouTube, yeah, I'll watch that.
Right. We're live? Like live? All right. We're live. All right. We got one more minute. All right. 59. Oh, there we go. You ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you cannot hear me, let me know. This microphone should work. But great to see you all. Thank you all for coming here for the last version of our community input meetings, which are designed to get some information out to you, some feedback from you so that we can actually create a budget and do a process that will allow us to work most efficiently together. So the presentation that we are using will come up on the screen shortly, but Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. We believe that as we create a community of unity here in Northport, that we are in the keeping together process. We want to work better together, hence this town hall and community budget input meeting. This is the fifth one that we've actually had, and I am grateful that we are seeing some of the input that we desire from our community. We know that we can't do it without you. We don't want to do it without you, and we believe that as we work together and we get closer to success, that's the city that Northport would like to be as we continue to grow. So as we start, as we know, the city of Northport has nearly 80,000 residents. That means a lot of different people come from a lot of different places. And you may have come from a place where the government was a little different, and we'll talk about some of the different structures of government. But what you'll see when we talk about the purpose of government, there's a perception that the government should operate like a business, when in reality, the government is established to perform critical services to citizens, not for profit. We are not here as a government to make money. We are here to make sure that we are fiscally responsible, that we don't waste taxpayer dollars, and that we can explain our decisions that should ultimately lead towards more citizen satisfaction for everything that we do in the big term. There's a perception that government procurement is wasteful and full of fraud. Anyone who has worked with the government knows that we have a lot of regulations, and those regulations are in place because someone somewhere did something that allowed for it to be created. I tell people all the time, the red tape that is very, very familiar to government didn't happen overnight. It happened because there are processes that we needed improvement upon. There was oversight that was necessary. And so we do our best and make sure that we are not wasteful and full of fraud. The other perception is that government services should be privatized to save taxpayers money. Well, privatization of most services results in increased costs because you're now privatizing it. You're turning it over to an entity that is designed to make a profit. And that is different from your government, as I explained earlier. One thing that I will tell you as we go through our budget process is that we are challenging all of our department leaders to make sure that they analyze their budget to see what can be outsourced, what can be insourced, what are the trade-offs, what's the value. Privatizing operations is not a one-size-fits-all. You really have to look at it individually and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. You don't want to sacrifice cost for quality. You also got to remember customer service, and then you also ultimately have to figure out, is it in the best interest of the citizens? There's a lack of transparency in local government. Government budgets are developed and adopted through a series of public meetings like the one you're in right now. Our salaries are public as well, and our expenditures are also on the website. So when you talk about our actual transparency of our budget process, we know for a fact that we are putting many different ways out there for you to see and participate and know and answer the questions that you actually need so you can have a higher level of confidence in what your government is doing. On the bottom of this chart, you can't really see the cities that are represented, so I'm going to tell you the column on the far left, green, that's the city of Northport. The one right next to it is the city of Longboat Key. In the middle, you have the city of Sarasota, the city of Venice, and then the city of Punta Gorda. What this shows you is your taxable value for 2021, and you can see that with a, thank you, whoever removed that. But what you will see is that based on our, there's a laser here, but it won't show up on the screen. Based on what you see on our green column, you can see our population is nearly 78,000 people. Our taxable value is 5.8 billion. You see Longboat Key, they have more money than we do, but they have a lot less population of 7,000. You look at the $12 billion of the city of Sarasota with the 57,000 population. And the goal here we're trying to show you is that where we rank in the comparable cities that are close to us in proximity. These ones in proximity, as you can see, and the reason why we are lower is because we do have a lot more people, but we do have a lot less money than some of the other cities around us. What we're going to show you is, in a little bit, is some comparable cities to us as Northport in our size and our demographics. When you look at the per capita revenue estimate based on adopted millage rate, you see that ours is $280 on the far left. The reason why that's so low, again, is because of our number of people. We are the largest city in this county as it relates to population and land size. So this is how you see where that comes into play. The $280, per capita revenue, that shows you that, if we wanted to have more, and if taxes were more, then you would see our numbers going up higher to the other cities around us. The goal is not to keep up with those cities around us. We're not looking at this and saying, well, we need to be where Longboat Key is. That's not true. We need enough money in order to provide the services that you receive at a high quality that you are anticipating. That's our goal, and that's the challenge of the budgeting process. So when you look at a sample Northport tax bill, what you will see is that the millage rate after 2019 has been pretty stable at 3.7667. If that millage rate stayed the same way it is in 2022, your tax bill would go up from $593 to $616. And then the question would be, well, why are you raising my taxes? Well, we didn't raise your taxes. We raised the amount that you paid for your taxes. And the reason that happens is, if you look at the fourth column, you will see the taxable value of the home in this example went up from $157,000 to $163,000. That tax value going up of your home is something that we all want our tax values to do. We want our tax values to go up because it means that we have homes in desirable places. If you have high levels of crime, your tax values are not going to go up. If you have other poor services that are provided or not provided by your local government, your tax value will not go up. We want to provide you a great quality of life, and that quality of life is reflected in the people's desire to want to be here, which has a direct reflect on your tax bill. So the budget cycle itself is one that people know about but may not know all the details of. And without going through each and every single phase, there are some things I do want to point out to you. One, the budget cycle never stops. It is a continuous flowing, some would call it a monster, but it's really not. But it is continuously flowing every single month of every single year. Where we're at right now is we are in the policy and strategy phase at the top of the chart, where we're talking about planning, we're talking about our CIP, we're getting information in from our department heads, we're collecting information. And then we're gonna go into the development phase more deeply, where we talk about payroll changes, we're gonna talk about potential merit increases, our revenue projections. And then as we get down to March through September, that's where we sort of start talking about what the true numbers are gonna be. Right now, we are at the phase where our finance team is meeting with all of our department leadership, and we're going through each and every single budget by each and every single line item. The thing that we want to do as we present our budget to our elected officials is we have started a strategic planning process where we've identified 6 pillars, which we're going to talk about. And we want to make sure that our budget decisions are in alignment with their expectations from that process. There's 6 pillars, so our priorities should align with those pillars because that's what they said was important to them, and they represent the citizens. So by default, that's what they are saying is important to our population of our city. As we keep going through the process, we're going to adopt it. We're going to have more budget workshops. We're going to have budget one-on-ones. We're going to have more time for input. We'll have public comment. We'll have a lot more opportunity for us to get the voice of the citizens in this process. What we don't want is to get to the end of the process and then say, well, we weren't transparent enough or we weren't inclusive enough. We want to make sure that everyone can say, whether they took advantage of it or not, there were multiple opportunities for them to actually participate in our process. The changes in fund balance in this 3-year chart that you're going to see, and the numbers are kind of small, so I'm going to point out a few of them for you. The first column is the general fund, and the ending fund balance says it's $20,652,000, and that's for fiscal year 21. The number right above it is 15 million for fiscal year 20. The number above that is 14,400,000. The purpose and what I want to point out to you is these numbers are growing. We are growing in a way that is thankfully on track with the growth that the city is occurring. If these numbers were going down and our city was still growing as we know that it is, then we would have some major problems. And that's not unusual to other cities. I'm glad that we don't have to deal with it here, but these are going to present some challenges that we have to balance our way through. But it's no different than any other government. The government problems that I would warn you to think about are when your government says that they need to start furloughing people or laying people off. When that happens in order to balance a budget, things are not really well. I would say that based on the budgeting and the financial prowess of our team, you're not in that situation. When you look at the other balances as well in fund balance, same thing with road and drainage district, same thing with fire rescue. You see the same pattern that I just outlined. They're all going in the right direction. That allows us to be able to continue to meet the needs of where the city is growing to. Our fiscal year 22 our fiscal year 22 fund balance analysis shows you that if under that same model, you see that in the general fund, once you take the emergency and disaster reserve, which is the 4th bullet down from the left, or 20%, that's what people call the rainy day fund. So that rainy day fund, you have to take that off by policy that we are covered, so we don't have to worry about it. And the balance left over is balance that can be used to help balance what we're trying to do in this budget cycle for various reasons. It has to make the right sense. It can't be used for certain reoccurring costs versus one-time costs. There's all sorts of things that go in there. But when we start talking about how we're going to balance our budget and what do we have for opportunities, and this is just one fund. This is not a complete revenue projection of what all the revenues are for the city. That will come a little bit later in this process, not today, but in the process of the budget development that you will see and you will hear about. But let me state very clearly, the goal of that $7.3 million is not to get it to zero. That is not anyone's goal. So for us who believe that we must be fiscally responsible, that means being able to defend and explain why we use what we use and how that has the greatest impact on those within our borders and boundaries. So earlier we had a third-party consultant come in and we received some guidance and information on the pillars that were important to the leadership of the city of Northport. And your commissioners, there were 8 pillars, what were they called before? They were 8 priorities. They were 8 something that we used to call before, but now we have 6 pillars. The 6 pillars are safe community, quality of life, economic growth, economic development, growth management, environmental resiliency and sustainability, infrastructure and facilities, and good governance. Safe community, pretty much exactly what you think it is. That's our fire and safety, making sure that they have the resources and needs to be able to have response times for those who are in need of their services. That is one that I think we all will agree you cannot get wrong. The preservation of life, during any and all circumstances has to be paramount as the number one thing that we ensure that we can provide to our citizens. The quality of life, we want to provide things for people, and we want them to want to be here. Like I said earlier, your property value goes up if there's a good quality of life. If people don't want to be here, it will have a negative effect on our community overall. Think about if we had an unsafe community and the crime rate was high, and people were fearful of going outdoors. Can you only imagine what that would do for the people who actually live here? And then the 80,000 people that we have would not be continuing to grow. We would see a recession in our population, and then that would take us the other way, knowing that that's not the direction we want to go in. Because the economic development and growth management pillar is clearly stating that even though you have an entire new area being built out in Wallen Park, the legacy side of Northport is still under development as well. It needs things. We can't forsake one for the other. And that's why when you look at our city and people say, well, I don't want the growth, I don't need the growth. The growth overall helps us for many things. And one, I'll say, is if you don't want your tax bill to increase, the best way to do that is for development to diversify who is paying the taxes to the city of Northport. That's how you get it done. But it doesn't mean that just because there's new and immediate growth in Wallen Park, it doesn't mean that Legacy Northport, we have plans for a downtown there. We have plans for restaurants. We have plans to make it, better than what it is today. So we are looking at that through our economic development team to make sure that we have a balance throughout our entire city. And our entire city is 100 square miles. If you don't like what you see in one area, it's pretty easy to find what you like somewhere. We have a lot to offer a lot of people. Environmental resiliency and sustainability. You can't have economic development growth without the balance of taking care of the environment. I'm thinking about our tree canopy, our densities. I'm thinking about how the tree ordinance that we just passed, which was designed to change the behavior of people who want to still grow and develop it, but maintain our environmental character and culture. Is very important. And so if it's very important as a pillar, we have to make sure during our budget process that we invest some resources into that activity. The infrastructure and facilities, there has been, some of you may remember the building that collapsed. I want to say it was in Miami, but it was an example of infrastructure that had failed. It has been a common practice to kick the can of investing in infrastructure down the road for many, many years. Northport is no different, but it all catches up to everyone at some point in time. So now we have to invest in our infrastructure while making sure we maintain the environmental balance, while still growing at the same time. Those things have to be done so that we can actually have the best quality of life for those here in Northport. Good governance. Good governance is and are the people in this room. There's a lot of city staff in this room, and we are there to make sure your policies and procedures are efficient. We want to make sure that your government is transparent. We want to make sure your government is accountable. We want to make sure that we answer questions that you have in a timely manner. It doesn't mean that we will always agree with you, but we should be responsive to you to make sure that we have a conversation and we listen, and we make sure that we have a two-way conversation and not just a one-way conversation. But good governance is extremely important. Without that, without those who are fiscally responsible and those who care about making sure that we provide you the best levels of service, Northport will never reach its fullest potential. When you look at the pillar distribution that I just referenced in all funds, you will see that the infrastructure and facilities integrity is 41%, good governance is about 15%, safe communities 24%, quality of life 12%, Economic development is 0.8%, and environmental is 6.2%. This right here is designed, and there's some other funds included in this. So this one is designed just to show you how we spend all of our money as a city. And when you actually are able to go online, you will be able to see our budget tool, which will give you an exercise that you can then say how you would spend $100 in all of our funds. And we'll give you some information in that budgeting tool exercise that sort of explains to you where and why you choose to put your money. But I encourage you all to go online, go onto our website, and use our budgeting tool, and it will show you how it's not very easy to distribute $100 into everything that's a priority. And if you have 6 pillars, everything can't be the number one priority. You have to figure out where you're going to maximize your effort and have a plan and a strategy on how you're going to get there. Now, the one thing I will say is that if everything can't be a priority in year one, you have to make a plan for a multiple year tract. So if you can't do it in year one, where's year 2 and 3? Show me the pathway, show me the plan, paint me the picture of how we're going to get there. When you look at the general fund, which is our most used fund when you think of normal government operations, Safe Community is 53% of that fund. And again, we have to stay safe. We have to make sure police and fire and rescue can respond as they need to. Quality of life, we have to make sure that we are providing services for people who want to be here. The economic growth and development and environmental pieces are small, but before I touch on those, the reason why infrastructure is so small on this one and because it was so large on another one is because they have their own fund that helps pay for that. And good governance, a lot of that comes out of our general fund as well. But in this chart right here, you'll see that we are slightly out of balance as it relates to 2 of our pillars that we say are important. Economic development is at 2.3%. Environmental resiliency is at 0.3%. If they're important, you've got to invest more resources towards getting those pillars at a higher level of a priority. Like I just said, doesn't mean you have to do it all in one year. It's pretty hard to change one budget drastically in 1 year, but what we can do is that we can have a plan. We can have a multiple year plan. We can talk to you. We can tell you what we're planning, what we're doing, and how we plan on moving the needle on some of the priorities. The priorities that I'm referring to were in the strategic planning process that we also put out to the public a couple of months ago so that you could actually give your feedback, which we did get a lot of feedback on where your priorities lie. Next step in that process is to bring it in front of our commissioners so that they can finalize that priority list, and then we will then take that and then bake that into our budget process, as well as we have new staff and new efforts where we are actually putting that information is going to live online so that you won't have to search for it, look for it, wonder where it is, how are they doing, they said this. Again, we need to be held accountable. Accountability only comes from being able to give people information on where you're at and what you're doing. There's a few budget misconceptions we want to talk about today and sort of clear up. First one is most of my annual property tax bill is paid to the city of Northport. In actuality, the Sarasota County School District receives 44 cents off of each dollar that you pay here, and the city of Northport is 25 cents. Sarasota County is 22 cents. 9 cents goes to other. That is not to say that the 44 cents to the county district is incorrect. It is just pointing it out because we all know how important it is for the facilities of our school, the teaching levels of our schools, the number of schools that we have. We have to make sure that they are a priority. So I think that where they are is exactly accurate, and they should be number one. But people think that hey, Northport is taking all my money and they're mismanaging our money, and we're trying to make sure that we clear that up. So Northport collects more revenue than other taxing authorities and provides the same services. So when you look at this per capita revenue estimate based on effective millage rate, you will see that we are at $442 and others around us are higher. There's no magic to why we are lower. I would love to take a lot of credit that this team has done over the last few years, way before I got here, but it's the number of people that we have, which we are the largest, with the millage rate that we currently have as well. It's that simple. If we were a city that, wanted to do a lot faster, then you would hear someone saying that we need to raise our millage rate so we can, have more money to do more things. But think about the times that we're in. Think about where we're at. The price of everything has gone up in the last few months. And we recognize that as a city. We know that. We understand our role in making sure that the people who are living here don't experience any more undue financial burdens than absolutely necessary. So knowing that and knowing what we're trying to accomplish, that's where the pieces come in together for the budget process, making sure that we keep all of that in mind. Next one, Northport unnecessarily raises taxes to pay for waste and inefficiencies. When you look at this chart right here, this is the Valorem millage rate versus population for the last 10 years. What you'll see is that in 2019 to 2020, there was an increase, and that increase has since leveled off. And when you see how low we were, we actually now are back over the rate that we were in 2013, but now we've sort of flatlined for at least the last 2 years. And I'm fairly certain that the commissioners would agree that our goal is to not increase that for this year as well. So knowing that, how do you balance the budget? How do you make it work? That's part of what we're trying to do. This right here is a 20-year tax rate history slide. If you look to your far right, you'll see the 2 years that we're currently in, where I just told you it was the same. And look, you see 19, that same little bump up from 19 to 20. But if you shift your eyes all the way down and back from 2006 to 2007, look how far it went down so drastically all at once. That was 1 year of one decrease all at once. And now what we've sort of done is slowly come back up from that level. What you should see and what we want to see, barring any situations that are severely outside of our control, you want to see a stable rate of increase. You don't want to see huge spikes in your tax rates. You want to keep it sort of stable. And that's what I believe we're pledging to you is our direction now. Even in the face of looking at our consumer price index and recognizing that I believe it increased like 9.6% or nearly 10%, this last year, it is going up. But those are factors outside the world that we can't control, and we definitely can't keep up with. Ideally, we would like to see these two lines, more parallel with each other. But we're not going to sit here and say that because the consumer price index went up 10% in a year, that we need to raise, your tax bill by 10%. That's not good governance. What we're saying is that we recognize that other things are going, increasing in rates around us, and we are examining ourselves, not only from a revenue projection standpoint, but also from how are we managing and controlling our expenses. We control those expenses, and I told you earlier, we have to make sure that whether you're talking about insources versus outsourcing, whether you're talking about being innovative and creative, there are multiple ways. Everything that we do now or any government does is not the ideal way to do it. You can always get better. And what we're going to do is try to get better within ourselves so that we don't actually sit here and say, this is why we need to raise our rates. The taxes in Northport are higher than comparable government entities. So here's the chart when I was telling you about those places around us that have similar either population or land size. You look at places like Palm Coast, Homestead, Coconut Creek, Bradenton, Fort Myers, and Sunrise. The blue line at the bottom represents where we are based on the same millage rate that we've been talking about, 3.7667, if I'm not mistaken. Look at all the rates that are above us. And I think the maximum of a rate is either 9 or 10. What is the maximum? Is it 10? 10. So look at how many people are in the middle, that 6 to 5%. Look at us, where we are 3.7%. So when people say, well, your tax rate is so high, please make sure you're comparing us to another city that is providing the same level of services for a similar amount of people or a similar amount of money that we manage. These are the comparable cities that you should look at. And this should give you comfort knowing that our millage rate is still doing very well. One reason why we're able to make sure that our millage rate stays where it needs to be and should be is the surtax, which will be on the referendum for this November. This surtax, which is a 1 cent sales, applies to the first $5,000 of any purchase that is subject to state sales tax. This allows us to get things done on your behalf. The projected revenue from this upcoming surtax, if it is approved, is something upwards of $316 million. That's $316 million from this tax, which has been in place since 1989, that will allow us to actually keep providing infrastructure. Look at some of the past projects, Cool Today Park, bridge rehabs. These are things that we do with that tax on your behalf. So it's very important that you understand how this penny tax works and the value that it could play as you make a decision this upcoming November. The upcoming November ballot, the biggest question that we'll have is price widening Boulevard as a surtax project. If the surtax passes, this is the main thing that we're going to focus our effort on. It's a widening project that has been longly admired as a problem, and we want to stop doing that. We want to just bite the bullet. Let's go ahead, let's fix it. It's a hurricane evacuation route. It gets backed up each day. If you go on it enough, you know whether people are trying to get around a mailman, whether they're trying to get around a trash truck. It's easy, or just school buses. I mean, it's easy just to back up really quickly on this road. We want to improve the transportation experience of those in this city. This is the fastest way to get it done. The price of this project has gone from being in the 40 millions to currently in the 50s. I think it's at 57 million now. If we wait, the price only grows higher. We know what the supply market, we know what the labor market is looking like right now. I do not have to sell you on the fact that you know that this price is only going to go up. As we look at how we are going to communicate to you and some things that we want you to recognize and understand, it's really based on a performance management maturity model. If we have no data, that's at the bottom of this, that means we are really starting from scratch. But the good news is our team has been measuring multiple items over multiple years, but now is a time where we are going to just sort of pull it all together so that we can have a model that we're going to put out publicly that shows some data, which will lead to information, which will lead to operational insights, strategic knowledge, and strategic foresight. We're not going to put out numbers to you just for the sake of saying, hey, look at all these good numbers of what we're doing. Hopefully, most of them will be good, but others will be bad. It's inevitable. The fact is, what are you going to do about it? When you see a number that's out of alignment with where you expect it to be and where you believe that the strategic pillars and priorities want us to be, what are you as a government going to do about it? Then that will help drive some of our budgeting decisions. Where you place your money should be in direct alignment with where you are or are not as it relates to your performance management. So this will be a great backbone of what we do as we talk to you in the future. Economic development, we're still growing and growing. Like I said, we're looking at 100 by 30. That's 100,000 people by 2030. We believe that we're going to get there. There's a lot of growth going on. You know, we have a 46-year-old age average. We're trying to make sure that we have activities for all levels of ages to do, from 7 to 70. And if we do that right, then people will want to be here. If we do that right, the quality of life improves. We do that right, then economic development still comes. We do that right, then the city of Northport just continues to grow, and we gain the strength of being the largest city in size and population in the county. Just imagine what we would look like when it says that our unemployment rate is 3.1. We don't have a high unemployment rate, but imagine if the people that we had who live here stayed and worked here. 90% of our people who live in Northport commute out of Northport to work elsewhere. If we want to keep them here, if we want to say that they deserve to be here, if we want them to spend their dollars here, if we want them to go to lunch and buy things at the local stores and build the backbone of our business, which should be our small and local businesses, we have to have jobs for them here. And that's not going to happen unless we make an intentional focus on it. So part of what we want to do, and in this next slide, you'll see more about the people who leave out of here. What we want to do is make sure that we keep our people here. People are moving here. They're moving to the county. The nation is high at its highest price growth, rising 28% from housing and mortgages since last year. That is a good thing, and it can be a bad thing depending on where you sit in that equation. But overall, it's something that is outside of our control that has sort of pushed the housing to a point where we're talking about where's our policy for affordable housing, workforce housing? How are we trying to help those who don't have high salaries, who are teachers and some of our other employment groups here? How can we help them? They are being priced out while still being working and not being able to live here. We've got to figure that out. The good news is that we're trying to figure it out now. The bad news is we're late to the party. And we are not late to the party as the city of Northport. We are late to the party as a country, because I know people have been talking about affordable housing, depending on where you are, for quite some time. It does not move very quickly. It just does not. So we're talking about a policy for that now. We're talking about temporary solutions. By temporary, I mean ones that can be done pretty quickly. We have a crisis on our hands, and it's not a crisis for this city. It is a crisis for this country. And so ultimately, someone will say, well, the bubble's going to burst and, it's going to go back to what it was. It'll take a long time to get back to what it was, but hopefully it will level out and then continue to decrease. But the people who are experiencing housing challenges don't have that time to waste. So we've got to react in a way, and we're working on it now, and hopefully we'll be bringing some information that will make an impact on that terrible situation in the upcoming weeks to months. So the Aquatic Center has a slide on here because it's a huge topic of conversation for the city of Northport. There are people who believe that the Aquatic Center is great and Warm Mineral Springs is awesome and don't touch them and how dare you. And then there's other people who think that we should have never built the Aquatic Center. It's losing money. What are you thinking? So we're going to meet both of those arguments today and have a little conversation about Warm Mineral Springs and the Aquatic Center. If you look at the column that says under Warm Mineral Springs, fiscal year 20 to 21, you will notice that the Warm Mineral Spring made $893,000 last year. It is a very, very important gem to this city as for people wanting to be here. We are renovating over there, so we're putting money back into it to make it a better experience. The city commission has challenged and charged our staff to go back and bring back some scenarios of what it would look like for even more revenue generation in that area. There's a master plan that was done in 2019, so we clearly understand and know what the citizens do and don't want that area to look like, so that will be taken into account as well. We're not discarding that, but the Warm Mineral Spring is a very good revenue generating entity for the city of Northport. Now, if you look at the Northport Aquatic Center fiscal year 2021, you see that it lost $340,000, and the year before that, which was a heavy year with the pandemic, lost even more than that. These two facilities, while Warm Mineral Springs does well, we are a government. We are not in the business of saying that facility is not providing its purpose if it is not making money. That facility is and was built due to the fact that we are trying to improve the quality of life of those here. There is a study that we're going to do in the near future that also will talk about the other intangible economic developments that are not tied to the bottom line of that facility, which will also show you the value of that facility. But for someone to think that, well, it should make money or we shouldn't have it, that's not the way government works. I haven't heard anyone say that McKinnon Park is not making money, so we need to close it. You have to realize in totality what the government is doing and what the purpose is in order for you to understand that we are in a great position in order to have that aquatic center here. Now, if you go back to the earlier conversation where we talked about outsourcing versus insourcing, then you can say, well, just outsource it and let it make money, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore. Same thing for Warm Mineral Springs. Just let someone else do it. And if that were the direction of the commission, I can guarantee you we could do that. But the new operators of it will raise the prices of it because they will want to make money and they will figure out a way to make money. And then the next thing you know is we'll have people complaining that they can no longer afford to go to the aquatic center, even though they're a resident here, they helped build it and their taxpayer dollars. I mean, you can see how it goes from there. But the purpose of the slide, the purpose of the education is to give you information and numbers on one aquatic facility that loses money, one that gains money. Both are equally important, and both we have plans for in order to make sure that we continue the quality of life for those in our area. When you look at a half-year comparison, we, as an aquatic center, had a 49% increase from spring break attendance. 5,963 visitors came over a 10-year period. This has been a great year for the Aquatic Center, and by all projections that we see that this year, of course, will be the best. It's only been open for like 3 years, and the pandemic has dominated most of those years. But this year, we believe to be a great year. We believe that it is still going in the right direction, and even if it makes money this year, let's say that 300,000 gets to zero or very close to it, we still believe and we are still confident that we would not sacrifice that venue for what it provides to our community at all. But very proud of the numbers that we are receiving so far and where it's going. Northport Utilities, this is back to the infrastructure and facilities investment we talk about. So Southwest Water Reclamation Facility, looping water lines in for improved water quality. We know that, as I talked about earlier, when you talk about the environment, not all of the environmental situations deal with, the trees and the landscaping. It also deals with your water. How are you doing and what are you doing? The ongoing lift station rehab, elimination of inflow and infiltration into the sewer system. These are things that some people will say, well, they're just not exciting. And, that's why I want to focus on this. No, it may not be as exciting as anyone may particularly believe, but it's equally as important. And that's where we are trying to drive the point home within our budget process to make sure that we make sure it has a seat at the table in our utilities department. And even with the upcoming ones, they are still focused on that in that area, whether it's the AMI, the advanced metering infrastructure, the water and wastewater expansion, the Toledo Blade and I-75. We just had conversations about that, the getting, whether it's from septic to sewer. We are still moving this city in the right direction. It just will not happen overnight. It will take some time, but we have to be intentional and deliberate about it. And when you start talking about, the water treatment plant at Welland Park, well, that's a great place to make sure that you get off to the right foot. If you're expecting all this growth, you have to make sure that you're not only looking at Legacy Northport and fixing those situations so that they can be at its optimal level, but you also got to make sure that you are actually doing the right thing with the new areas that you're putting in. When you look at the municipal water and sewer master plan, what you're going to notice here is that Utilities has developed a long-term master plan for city and water services throughout the city. And the first area identified is the Blue Ridge Southwood area, which is currently under design for city water and sewer. This is one that we've just talked about recently with our commission, so please stay tuned on that one as we continue to show you that we're committed to making sure that our water and wastewater services match our words of intentions of making sure that we actually get them to their highest quality as possible. So what can I do? What can you do? What are we asking you to do? One, get involved. We talked about the online budgeting tool. Please go online, take the tool, show how you would distribute the $100. We're going to take that. We'll do a report. That'll be presented back to the commission at some time during their budget process so they can hear what you think as well, which is the second bullet. And it is available until May 13th, which is this Friday. So please get involved with that. The other thing I'll say is, in order also for you to get involved, we have a lot of continued vacancies on our advisory boards, and that is because people turn over on them. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. So if we know that people turn over on advisory boards, maybe you have time to join one. Maybe you're already on one. If you are, I don't want to say you need to join more because you only have so much time in your own lives. But maybe you can help recruit people to get on our advisory boards. we just want to make sure that we hear from people who care about our community. It is not always, it's not always a time for negative comments to get involved, but you can be involved and reiterate some of the great things that the city is doing as well. We know that we're doing great things as a city. We know that we have not reached our fullest potential, nowhere near it, but we're dedicated every day to make sure that we keep moving in the right direction, and I know we're going to get there. All right, so now is the question and answer portion. We do have a few members in our audience, so I will see if they have any questions. We also have some questions online, so before, you look like I'm boring you. So you look like I was boring you.
No, never. No.
Okay,
No?
thank you.
Manage my seat, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you go, that confirmation. So, in all seriousness, if you have any questions, now's the time. We're going to turn it over to the ones in the audience first to see if they have any questions. If not, we'll take some questions that we received in advance online or some that have come in online. This is being broadcast so that people can participate online. The one this evening will also be broadcast online for those who want to participate, but we are trying to provide as many outlets and resources for people to be heard as humanly possible. Any questions? All right. Oh, sure, absolutely.
My name's Dwayne Saltline.
They might be able to hear you online. Yeah.
My name's Dwayne Saltline, and first I'd like to welcome Mr. Fletcher to Northport. We're glad you're here. Well, I'm glad you're here anyway. I'd also like to go on the record that I challenged Mr. Fletcher at the Morgan Center a race on the elliptical. He backed out. I'm the champion right now. He still has not agreed to a race. So one of these days, I hope to race on the elliptical. But back to the Morgan Center, that I got two things I just want to say. I use the Morgan Center, and it goes to the quality of life. Something I hope that the town will consider is the hours there. Just like you said, is hard for some people that are working, and we're closed. We're closed on Sundays, and we're closed on a lot of those Monday holidays. As far as quality of life, some of the, I can get there every day. I'm retired, but some people working have a hard time getting there, so that's something to consider.
Okay.
I'm also on the Economic Development Board. I enjoy that. I've been on there maybe a year, served with Randy, and I'm encouraged by the what the city's doing in economic development. But I think one thing, maybe the money that's focused to economic development, the quality of life issue is really big in economic development. If people do not want to come to, if your quality of life is not there, you can attract all kinds of businesses, but they'll never come into your community. They'll drive in from somewhere, some other community. So that could maybe skew the numbers a little bit with quality of life. But two important factors. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir, and appreciate your feedback. And you will always win that elliptical race because I don't like to run or move very fast. So congratulations on your victory. What we'll do is, from our Parks and Rec team, what we can do is provide a scenario in our budget proposal that will show exactly what it would take for us to increase those hours. That's just a staffing issue. If we wanted it to be open, it would increase their budget due to staffing issues, and I can guarantee you that they probably have no personal desire not to have it open on those times, but based on their staffing levels and the staffing levels that they've incurred over the last, what I would say, couple of years, they've been asked to do more with less, whether it was taking over the parks and everything else. So it's just a matter of us making an intention to do that, and that's a very good point. The other one about economic development and people coming in, the history of this city has been that it is a bedroom community. We can't change that. It's like turning a huge ship. So people would come in, and that's why I said 90% of the people leave to go work. But if we create jobs and things for them to do here, and when we advertise those things, and they want to get around the city as opposed to just the area that they're typically used to going in, that's how the city grows. And I think that that would be exciting. But one, you need to fix Price Boulevard. You want people to come over on that side. You need to fix it so transportation is not an issue. Out in Welland Park, they're fixing transportation issues as well, knowing the volume of people that's coming out there. So it just takes some intention, and we are doing that. We're focused on that, and we believe that that is the right direction for the city to go in. So thank you for your comments. Anyone else here before we go online? All right, ma'am, any?
We have 4.
Okay.
Some of them are more comments than questions, but I think can still be responded to.
Okay.
So this one I think probably is directed at economic development, but this is the first one. Many in our community are concerned about the type and number of restaurants in Northport. Each time a building starts construction, we hope for a good restaurant to enjoy with family and friends. All we have is unhealthy fast food, gas stations, car washes, and auto parts stores. Northport is not the little country city any longer. If homes can be sold for $500,000 and more, surely it is time to upgrade our eating choices. Too much money goes out of our city to Venice, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, and Sarasota to enjoy a good meal. Bring this money back, utilize the empty buildings, help keep money in Northport.
I think we should all give a round of applause for that person and their comment, because we all agree with that. And I think that one of the focuses from our economic development division team under the leadership of Mel Thomas is how do we diversify what we have. I will say that, 5 or however many years ago, that would have been very acceptable for us to just be happy with what we were getting based on letting those who wanted to be here make that decision. But now we can be a little bit choosier in our eating establishments and making sure that and I can't say this enough, the small and local restaurants who start here and we want to stay here, they are the ones that are ingrained into the fabric of our community, the ones that are already here. So we want to help them as well. But to that commenter, we are looking for new choices of making sure that we have quality dining. Not that the other ones mentioned were not quality, but different types of quality of dining here in Northport. Absolutely. Totally agree with the comment.
All right, the next one is directed at Parks and Recreation. And this is regarding Warm Mineral Springs renovation. Long time overdue. Many of us taxpayers have bought or built houses for this only reason. The sanitary conditions are becoming worse and worse. When will we finally have decent bathrooms and showers? Museum, etc. is fine to be planned, but basics are essential.
I'm walking to our Parks and Rec staff, and I believe that the renovations that are occurring now are redoing the restrooms, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to say they will be completed in like a year and a half, but I will not put words in the director's mouth.
So we have a RFP that is out that closes on June 6th, and that will be for the restoration of the 3 existing buildings, utility infrastructure improvements, and parking lot improvements. It's estimated to be a project that will take 18 months. So once that's complete, we will have a brand new, basically, facility maintaining that historic sense that was there with the buildings, but it will be all updated, ADA compatible, and we're looking forward to it.
Number one cheerleader right here for that. Thank you, ma'am. But I want to focus on something in that you said, which was the person said they bought a house just for that reason to be here. It's like, people who think that, well, Warm Mineral Springs shouldn't be celebrated as a historical piece of the city, a vibrant piece where people go and they, appreciate the healing powers of it. This comment just said that they bought a home here for that purpose. I mean, that's a very strong statement, and for us not to sort of embrace it is not really right, in my opinion. But I'm glad that commenter chimed in, and I'm glad to know that we are moving that facility forward, and it will be much better improved once renovations are complete. Yes, ma'am.
All right, this is a general taxes question, and that is, With the amount of new residential construction along with the burst of commercial buildings and businesses, I don't understand how my taxes can keep climbing at fairly large amounts. My taxes have gone from $900 to $2,600 in 10 years. It's ridiculous.
I can't get to that fast enough. So the tax issue is, this is how I'll respond to that. And I hate the fact that her tax, or his or her tax bill has gone up by that amount. But what I will say is, what we need now is a tax rate that allows us to stay consistent with what our needs are. And if we do that, then what we can do is now a tax rate that has gone up in the last 10 years, which is what was referenced in the message. As you can see, there's only one real big spike in a tax bill going up, and that was in 19 and 20. And we are making sure that we sort of keep it steady, as I said before. The issue is, let's say the tax rate stays the same for 5 years, and then we get to a better economy and things look better, and someone says, well, you know what? Let's lower that tax rate. Then the next thing you know is the revenue that we've gotten that has decreased for what we need, which the needs are still going to be going and growing, that's where the problem happens. And then next thing you know is you have to have an increase at some point to offset a decrease that you had at some point. What I would say based on that comment is they should expect from myself and all the leaders within this room and outside this room of the city of Northport is to make the best decisions so that I can see a stable tax rate that is acknowledging the fact that our home values are increasing. So therefore, you're getting more money in order to do things you need to do as a city, which is growing. If we were not growing as a city, if we had stopped growing and we had the growth that we're experiencing now 10 or 15 years ago, then you might all be saying lower the tax rate because there's nothing else coming right now. But we're not there right now in the phase of life of the city of Northport. That's why the rate needs to stay where it is. And I would not advise decreasing it based on what I said, because if it goes down, you're going to have to come back up. And it's always more painful to come back up than it is pleasing to go down. Next question.
All right, this is the final one for this meeting. And this one could be stormwater, could be utilities. I'm not entirely sure. We'll go for it. Sucralose doesn't lie. You now have the proof you need to justify a mandatory sewer system for the city. Do not drag your feet or delay the inevitable on this. To be fair, the cost can be mitigated by installments in the yearly ad valorem tax statement that goes out to all property owners.
Yes. I don't think you're going to find anyone in this room that will disagree with that. We have the facts, we have the data, we have the science telling us that we need to react and figuring out the best way to react. But we do want to react in a way that is, the commission has been clear. They want to make sure that it is not all on the backs of the taxpayers. So we're trying to be creative. We're trying to develop programs. We're trying to make sure that we work together as a community in need and leadership so that we can solve a common solution. But I totally agree with that person. No one's going to disagree with them. I would say just stay tuned for how we actually find the solution that we present and the rollout and the pathway. I would just also encourage everyone that just because we don't solve it in 1 year, we have to have a plan when it comes to this government that spans multiple years. We cannot solve and do everything in 1 year. I would love to. It just can't happen. Okay, so no more comments online? Okay, all right, we will stop there. Maybe there will be some more comments this evening. We will be back this evening to do the same thing in person and online. Thanks for everyone who attended today. Thanks for your time and energy, your questions and your feedback. And I'll see you on the elliptical, sir. But not really. All right. Okay, good job. Don't you just